You're not gonna believe me when I tell you this, but I actually didn't record a single bit of audio for this video. I don't know how I didn't notice because I split this video into 2 days of recording, but I didn't notice until editing that there was no audio. None at all. Not even game sounds. I genuinely don't know how I didn't notice, but I didn't notice, and now it's too late, so we'll just have to live with it. Thankfully, most of this video was supposed to be voiceover anyways, but it does kind of hinder the video experience a little bit. Hopefully, the next video will have audio. We'll actually have audio. Anyways, so this is a 4-part series that I'm doing. It is 100 Days in a Flat World. Each video will be split up into 25 days, so this is the first 25 days. And since each part will have 25 days, that'll make 4 videos so that we can total up to 100 days. And this isn't a hardcore series, it's just a plain survival. So if I die, which spoiler, I die a lot, it won't actually really hinder my gaming experience. So the first part that I want to start off with is I want to find villages that have 3 main things. I want there to be a food source of some sort, preferably cows, pigs, and sheep. I want to find obsidian, though this isn't something that I'm looking for specifically in the village I want to live in. This is just something I want to find in the village that I'm exploring, because I will need obsidian for a portal. And I want to see if I can find any good resources to help me get further in the video itself, in the series, and be able to progress more. The village that I want to live in, I specifically just want there to be cows, sheep, or pigs as my food source, though I'll also set up farms and whatnot, but I want to be able to have something along that line as well. So I'm just going through and I'm finding any resources I can in many different villages. So I do this for a little while before eventually I settle on a village I want to live in. So this is the village that I decide I want to live in. It has cows as well as pigs, though I only actually end up breeding the cows up in this first episode. I don't really do anything with the pigs, but this is the village that I do decide that I want to live in, get started, get settled. And since I have found a village that I want to live in, that I'm ready to settle down into, we need to get rid of these slimes, because quite frankly, they are the worst thing to ever exist. So if you find a slime chunk, you can actually just shovel the ground, the dirt, into path blocks, and slimes will no longer spawn there. So I spend some time just spawn proofing all of the slime chunks so that the village is a lot safer and less slimy. Though because I am just using wood shovels, it takes me so many shovels to be able to get all of the slime chunks, and even then I did skip a few slime chunks that were on the outside of the village just because it was taking so long, and doing it with wooden shovel was not the easiest thing in the world. So I do spend a little bit of time just here doing that. At this point, I'm now on to day 5 of 100 days, and I need some source of iron for better tools, so obviously I kill some iron golems. That is part of the reason why living at a village is so good when doing these flat worlds, is because you have a constant source of iron from all the iron golem spawning. So that can help give me tools, armor, and so on, just from constantly killing them. So I spend a little bit of time just gathering up some iron from that and making up some better tools. Of course, I do that after I finished all of the slime chunks, when I could have used iron, but wood was more at my disposal than iron was. And after that, it was time to get started on some food so that I would be able to trade with villagers. Some of the farmers, I wanted to be able to use carrots, potatoes, wheat, and so on to get some emeralds, which will hopefully help me later on in the series with getting enchants and more resources from that as well. On day 6, after all of my farms that I needed at the start were set up, I decided it was time that I should get started on dealing with some villagers. So what I started off with was just digging a hole. I started off just 2 deep, though I did end up going 3 deep, so that I would hit bedrock. And all of my villagers were going to go into that hole. It's going to keep them safe in there, safe from mobs, to make sure that they were, never getting killed or anything like that. So I put them all into there, and then after that, covered them up. Also made sure I put beds in there so that they could also breed while they were in there. And then they were pretty much ready to go. I also did end up putting a zombie in a boat, just like with a wall in between them, and then a hole in that wall so that the zombie and the villagers could see each other, which would keep iron golems spawning more often. And that way I would still have my continuous supply of iron while I am working. Day 7 was pretty much just working on some more of the villagers, and of course also dying because I accidentally punched the iron golem. What a stupid thing to do, am I right? But pretty much it was just me working on the villagers and then also getting anything else done that I wanted to work on at that very moment. I also died again on day 7. Isn't this crazy? I died twice. This time, though, it was because I was just standing there going through my chests when all of a sudden a creeper just walked right up to me and blew me up. Thankfully, none of my stuff was lost, because if some of my stuff were lost, I would have been so upset, but nope, we're all good. Day 8 started off with a little bit of iron golem killing to make sure I could get a little bit more iron, and then started my trip to gather more resources from nearby and far out villages on the world. I started off with some of the closer villages, obviously, and then headed out a few thousand blocks away to go to some more villages to see if I can find some more food. I wanted to see if I can find different saplings, also to find some more obsidian, because at this point I still had not found any obsidian, and I really wanted to make sure I could get started on this portal. So it was mainly just spent trying to gather whatever resources I could find. By day 10, I was still out wandering in the villages, a few thousand blocks away from the village I decided to call home, when I realized that I had put the coords to that specific village in the chat and then proceeded to log out for about 10 minutes and then logged back in and remembered that the coords were in the chat and I had no way to get home. But, thankfully, I had found a compass in a previous village and was able to use the compass to find the way to spawn, and thankfully, because of the direction I'd went in, I would hit my village before I would hit spawn. So I knew that for me to get home, all I had to do was to just follow the compass. Thankfully. Because it would have been awful if I had to start over again on day 10. It would have been super upsetting. And so I spent most of day 10 just following the compass to find the village in which I decided to live in. And that is how I spent the next little bit of my time. I got home later in the day on day 10 and then proceeded to remember that one of the things that I was looking for was obsidian. But I didn't actually need to get obsidian. I totally could have just grabbed the lava from all of the blacksmiths I was passing and could just use that to make the portal. So here's my realization of me going out thousands of blocks to get obsidian, to remember that I didn't even need obsidian. I could have just gotten lava. So then I spend the next few days traveling out again, trying to find some lava, because I really needed to make this portal at this point. On day 14, in one of the villages, I managed to find a saddle. Thankfully, this was one of the things that I had hoped that I would find from the very, very start of all of this, though it wasn't something I was specifically looking for, but I did hope I would find it. And thankfully, since I was about 4,000 blocks away from home at this point, it would make my life much easier on getting back home. So what I needed was a horse, and I just grabbed the first horse I could see, spent some time taming it, and then called him mine. The rest of day 14 was just spent traveling and looking through some more villages, and then into day 15 is when I actually found the stronghold. Thankfully, because the stronghold is just a floating structure in the sky in Flat Worlds, it made it very easy to spot, so I wrote down the coords for future reference, this time not in chat and instead on a notepad, so that I could remember it and we could come back at a later date in a later episode and hopefully kill the dragon and get an elytra. Possibly. I don't know if we'll get quite that far, but we'll see what we can do with the rest of the 100-day challenge in terms of that. But that was how that was spent. I got back later in day 15 and decided that it was time to get started on the portal since I finally had enough lava that I could actually do so, and then I would go to the Nether. Because I didn't have a flint and steel, I wasn't able to light the portal the normal way. I had to use some lava to light a fire. Then I could go through. It left me with some time. I pretty much just spent that farming and taking care of the animals, breeding them up, things like that, before I finally noticed that the portal was lit and I went through. After going through, I just kind of looked around a little bit, trying to see what was around me, and, it's not a lot. The only really insane thing that I have got going for me is that I'm right beside the fortress, which may or may not come in handy in the future, but at the moment, it is not really of any significance to me, since I still am using iron tools and iron armor, and I am very susceptible to death at any moment in the Nether. So instead, I just spent the time gathering a little bit of resources so that I wouldn't just have wood, plain old oak wood to build with, because at this point, that is pretty much all I had. So I just spent a little bit of time gathering up some stuff that I could use for some building, because something I wanted to get started on soon was my house. Day 17, I decided it was time to work a bit more on the villagers, so I decided the first thing that I needed some books. But because obviously I don't have any sugarcane, I needed to go to villages to find books, or a librarian that has bookshelves and lecterns so that I could make some lecterns. So I spent the next little while just going through villages trying to find any bookshelves. After getting back from wandering the villages to try and find bookshelves, I decided I was going to make a cobblestone generator because I needed other blocks to build with. But I actually had no clue how to make a cobblestone generator, so I was just doing what I thought was right. But what I thought was right was actually wrong. And thankfully, I didn't mess things up too badly that I lost that lava, because that was the last bit of lava that I had. Which means that if I lost that, I would either have to go to the Nether, which scares me, or I would have to go find another village to get some more. And you can see here that I actually did lose that one, but I did have like one more in the blacksmith here, but that is all that I had left. So I really had to make sure that I did not ruin this one. But later on, I actually do learn how you're supposed to make a cobblestone generator, and it works, and I do spend some time just hanging out there, getting cobblestone. Day 18 is spent working on some villager stuff once again. I decided I was going to split up my villagers into rooms, so I put my armorers in one room so that I would be able to get diamond armor. That's why I wanted armorers. And then I also put my librarians into another room. Looking back at it now, I don't know why I did that. It feels a little bit unnecessary, but it's what I did. And I suppose it works. It just really is unnecessary. I genuinely don't know what I was thinking. But now they're all locked away in little rooms. So that's what I spent day 18 doing. Day 19 was a new recording session for me, so I felt like starting on something new, which meant starting off with gathering some resources. So I started getting some wood, and then after I got some wood, I decided it was time to learn how to make a cobblestone generator that actually works. So I Googled it, and then after Googling it, I came back to it, and I figured it out. So I quickly made my little cobblestone generator. I realized that you actually have to dig down so that the water can't move anywhere. You know, that makes sense. That it genuinely makes sense. I don't know, I didn't think of that. So I spent some time just trying to gather some cobble, and then went, wow, actually, it's kind of annoying having to pick up the cobble like that. What if instead I put a hopper underneath it? And that was a genius idea, quite frankly. So I killed some iron golems, and I got some iron so that I could make a hopper, put a hopper underneath where the block of cobble would spawn, and then put a chest underneath that so that all the cobble would fall into there, and it would make my life a million times easier. The rest of day 19 and into day 21 was spent working on my house. And quite frankly, it is probably the worst house I've ever built. It is truly ugly, it is small, it's awful, but to be fair, with limited blocks, what can you do? So, I did my best. I really did my best. I did what I could. Things were not in my favor with this build, but it is what it is. I also, in the process, died in the nether while trying to get some more of the nether blocks, the red wood. I can't remember what it's called right now. And yeah, I died. I died doing that. It was terribly unfortunate, but that is what I spent up to day 21 doing, was working on that. On day 22, I actually realized that you could buy bricks from one of the villagers. So obviously I bought as many as I could, and I decided I would try and make the place look a little bit nicer. It's not really that much nicer, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. I did what I could with the limited resources that I had, and it kinda looks better, so I'll take it. After trying to salvage what I could of my house, I remembered that actually wool is a block I have access to and is a pretty good building block. So, because I don't have any wool in this village here, I decided to go over to the next village over, and I would steal some sheep from there. I took two, just this white one, and then a gray one, where I would then breed them up, and all of the babies, I would change the color of their wool so that once they are grown up, I could just have continuous sources of that color of wool. Day 23, I didn't have too much of a plan, knowing that I was winding down for this episode. I didn't really want to start anything too big, so I just spent some time adding some more farms, since one of the things that I wanted to do was get more emeralds by trading with farmers. So I needed more carrots and potatoes specifically. So I just decided I would spend some time making some more farms and farming all of those up so that I could trade them for more emeralds. And finally, for day 24, the final day for this episode, I mainly just spent it doing some manual labor. I did some farming. I also got some more iron. I bred the cows some more, as well as the sheep. And pretty much just tidied up anything that needed to be quickly dealt with, since obviously this would be the last day for this episode, and I didn't want to get a little too crazy knowing that I would have to wait till the next episode to continue working on it. So it's pretty much just doing whatever needed to be done before calling this episode quits. And that would mark the end of this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hello and welcome back to my 100 day in a flat world. We're starting off with day 25, obviously. If you haven't seen my last episode of the first 25 days, make sure to go check that one out. And yeah, let's get started with today's video. Day 25 started off with just a lot of farming and a lot of trading with my farmers, because I was really just hoping for a lot of emeralds, and I was trying to kill some time while hoping that I would find a wandering trader. So I was farming, I was breeding cows, and getting wool from my sheep. And then while I was just kind of wandering about, I actually noticed that I had some llamas just hanging out by my portal. So obviously I put two and two together and realized that I had a wandering trader in the nether. So went and checked to see what he had. Has some mangrove and some birch. I was obviously very excited about that. So my next goal was make sure I have 10 emeralds so that I could get the one birch sapling and one mangrove sapling. So this sparked truly the long journey of farming and trading that is this episode. On day 26, I continued my farming journey as well as trading to try and get those 10 emeralds. And then I finally had enough emeralds that I could go get my my first little sapling from this guy. So I did, and then promptly died. So I went back. I needed my stuff. First scoutted the area, made sure it was safe, and then ran in and grabbed all of my stuff. Grabbed it all, and then I skedaddled on out of there because I was not risking my life anymore. So I left, and then I just kind of planted my sapling and went back to farming on day 27. So day 27 was just pretty much just farming, trading, the usual. Did that for a while until my mangrove sapling grew, and then I started tearing all of that down because I wanted to get some more wood so that we could use it for making my little house, my little base, look just ever so slightly nicer than what it currently does. But of course I had to go back to farming. Day 27 is a day of hard farming. So I did that, and then on day 28, I had enough emeralds that I could go get my birch sapling. So I went and got my birch sapling and then started growing that up using some bone meal, and was hoping and praying that I would get enough birch saplings to make more. And then I went back and decided it was time that I should start reworking on my base a little bit, making it look just a bit nicer, so I started off with that. I am actually pretty happy with the way that it's looking. Now that I've made some adjustments, it's not nearly as ugly. And then, of course, went back to getting some more birch. I have a terrible habit, or not a terrible habit, terrible luck of always getting either one or no birch saplings from all of my trees. So I got super lucky pretty much all this entire time that I was actually getting more than one. I was getting closer to like 3 per tree. It's pretty nice. Obviously went and took down some more mangrove trees. Tore those down because I needed some more. I was out of mangrove for my base and I needed some more. So I went and got some more, and then I went back to go working on my base. So it was just a lot of just tearing down and then rebuilding, which I also accidentally exploded my base. So I went and fixed that, or at least partially fixed it. Ran out of mangrove again. Went and got more mangrove, and then went and fixed it, of course. This is all on day 29, obviously. And then I needed some more cobble, because I was out of cobble and I needed some more to fix the last little bit of my base. So I just hung out for a little while at my little cobble generator. Though it is terribly slow, it does get the job done. Just hung out there for a little bit. And then I went back to go fix off my base. And it was also time that I added some more details. So I got started on what would become my little fireplace, little chimney. It's more of a chimney than a fireplace, because you can't even tell there's anything on the inside. But for the chimney, I pretty much just started with cobble and then would later go on with some stone. Just add a little bit more detail, a little bit more texture, make it look just ever so slightly nicer. And then on day 30, I went back to farming. At this point, I feel like it's my destiny to be a farmer. It seems like that's all I'm doing. But I just went back to doing that, doing some trading, and just kind of hanging out and chilling. And then I found another wandering trader, so I quickly put him in a boat so that he wouldn't despawn on me or run away. Though he did end up despawning in that boat. Thankfully, I already had everything I needed from him. He had dark oak saplings, and I managed to get 4. He despawned almost immediately after I got my 4th one. I didn't know they could despawn in boats, but he did. Anyways, and then I went back to farming and trading on day 31. Just a lot of farming and trading all day, every day. And after I got some farming and trading done, I decided it was time that I get some more birch. And so I tore all that down, planted some more. You know the drill. After farming on day 32, I decided that it was time that I start getting some endermen, some ender pearls, so that I could, well, go to the end. I decided it was finally time that we kill the dragon, so I decided I should probably start collecting some ender pearls. And then I decided, you know what, my house needs a little bit more detail, so I decided I was going to add a little bit of farmland just around it, just to add a bit more color that isn't red to it. Felt like it really needed something like that, so I got started on that. And then I also decided it should have like a little overhang, so I quickly made a little overhang. And then obviously, as a little bit more detail, my base needed a little path outwards because I think path blocks are super cute. Can't explain it. And then obviously my chimney needed smoke, so I decided I would start a fire. I'd just put a fire there because it did not occur to me. It just did not occur to me that I could build a campfire and use the campfire for smoke. But don't worry, later on I do end up remembering that campfires exist and using one of those. Day 33, I mainly just farmed, traded, you know, the usual. And along with farming and trading, I used all my extra seeds to add some wheat around my base because I wanted it to be more of that yellow color instead of the orange and green from like carrots and potatoes. So I used all of that, and then on day 34 when I woke up, I had blown up my chimney, so I had to refix that. And then after it was fixed, I went over to my cows, started breeding them, and then went back to farming. After farming, I realized that I was actually a bit low on iron, so I decided to then kill some iron golems, get some more iron, and get some more tools. At the end of day 34, it was time for me to go get some blaze rods. So I headed over, killed a few blazes, and then I ended up actually dying to said blazes. When I went back, I was promptly followed by 4 baby zombies. I tried to kill them, but of course I had no weapons, so they killed me. When I went back, it was nighttime, and there were baby zombies outside of my house, so I couldn't leave, and then I also couldn't sleep because of how many mobs there were. And then I went back again, where I was once again killed. At this point, I was fed up with it and decided, you know what? I don't need any of that stuff anyways. I just quickly made everything else that I needed and then went back to my usual work because I just could not deal with going back there again. I gave up. So, what do people who give up do? They farm. So the rest of day 35 was pretty chill. After dying 7 million times, I pretty much just spent most of it farming. Day 36 was pretty much just gathering some more trees alongside some farming and pretty much all of the usual stuff. Nothing too crazy was going on this day. Except for the fact that I decided I was going to move my cows into a new area I had just built. Of course, attached to my house because I thought it looked cute. So I put them all in their new little cage so that they could enjoy their new life. And then, of course, I killed all of the stragglers. And then day 37, I added a little bit more details to where I was now keeping the cows, just so it looked a little bit nicer. And then, about halfway through day 37, I decided I wanted to go on an adventure. So I started my journey with nowhere in particular in mind. I just wanted to see what I could find while I was out there. So I picked a different direction than what I went in last time, and just started wandering. I picked up some stuff from some chests, visited some new locations, and had a journey of a lifetime. I would spend the next 3 days, or 2.5, just wandering around and taking whatever I could find. On day 40, I finally went back home, locked my horse up, and then got started back on the grind. The grind being farming. This time, it was just me really adding more details to around my base, making it look a little bit more farmy. On day 40, at the end, I also decided it was finally time that I go back to the fortress. So I spent some time in the fortress, this time not getting killed, just gathering some blaze rods. When I got back on day 41, it was back to that farm life. I had crops to grow and people to feed. After I did a bit of farming, it was back to gathering some more wood. On day 41 is also when I realized that I could, in fact, make a campfire, and so I replaced the little fire and put in a campfire, which made it look oh so much nicer. So of course I had to quickly admire my work. On day 42, I grabbed some more cobble and then went back to farming. But of course, you can't forget trading as well, because I needed more emeralds. At this point, I decided that I could also probably try and get some ender pearls from clerics, so I was trying to level up my clerics that I had, but while I was also leveling up my clerics, I decided that at night I could actually just go out and hunt for endermen. So for the rest of the next few days, I would spend a little bit at night just wandering around and looking for endermen. On day 43, I started off by farming. At one point, I got bored of farming though and decided I needed something new to do, so I got started on making a little fishing pond, where I then went fishing. At the night of day 43, I once again continued my little wander around to see if I could find any more endermen. On day 44, I went back to fishing. I had found a new hobby, and I wanted to enjoy it. Also on day 44, I found a cat and was determined to befriend it. It took nearly 2 minutes for me to befriend this cat. And then, after I had made a new friend, I went back to fishing. At the night, I went to my usual wander around to see if I could find any more endermen. And then on day 45, I went back to farming. But of course, I couldn't be away from fishing for too long, so I went back to fishing. At the night of day 45, I found a new cat and was once again determined to befriend it. It took me roughly about 3 minutes for me to befriend this cat. On day 46, I went back to farming, and then I once again found another cat in which I wanted to befriend. This one took roughly about 2 minutes for me to tame. And then once I'd finished taming my cat, I went back to wandering around to see if I could find any more endermen. I then got killed by one of them. On day 47, I decided that I was going to do some more farming. I didn't have too many days left, so I wanted to try and get my clerics leveled up as fast as possible. I then went back to fishing. I then found 2 more cats. The first one I tamed pretty quickly, but the next one I followed around for about 1.5 minutes before I was able to tame it. After I'd tamed that cat, I then went around and looked for some more Endermen. On day 48, I decided I should do a little bit more work on my base and added some more details and finishing touches to the little cow farm. After I added some more details, I of course had to admire my handiwork a little bit. At the end of day 48, I decided it was time for me to start a new project with only one day left in this episode. This new project would become my storage house because I was starting to run out of space inside of my actual house and I needed more space to organize my chests, so I decided I would just make a whole new little area for all of them to go into. Day 49, I added a few smaller details onto the outside of my storage house, which obviously included a chimney. And then with not much longer in the day, I worked on moving all of my stuff into the storage house and then organizing all of it. The organizing was a very tedious thing to do, but thankfully it didn't actually take that long, so it wasn't that bad. And then finally on day 50, I admired some of my new work, killed an intruder, and then decided that that is where we were going to call it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys again in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to the 100 Days in a Flat World series. I have 2 previous episodes for this. If you haven't seen them, make sure to go watch them. So on day 50, I started off by just kind of adding some more detail to the storage house so it didn't look so flat and, had a little bit more detail to it, made it look significantly nicer. And then after I did that, I moved on to doing a little bit of farming, just trying to take things a little bit slower as I was getting back into recording this episode. On day 51, I chopped down a whole bunch of trees so I could make a little house type of thing on top of the trading hole. On day 52, I started working on the roof for it, but of course I chose to do dark oak, which would become a problem because I didn't have enough dark oak. So I wasn't able to finish all of the roof and would have to wait until I saw more villagers because I didn't have enough dark oak saplings to make another tree. So I needed another wandering trader so I could get more saplings, which, spoiler, I did thankfully find another trader. And just kind of here's what it looks like now, and I do know it looks absolutely horrendous. That doesn't really change throughout the entirety of me working on it. And then I worked on getting some emeralds because I needed to gather some resources, some books and whatnot, so that I could upgrade some of my tools, because throughout the entire first little bit, I'd actually been getting some ender pearls at night to go fight the dragon, and I finally had enough. So yeah, I did that on the night going into day 53, and then day 53 is when I found my trader and locked him in a boat and then worked on getting enough emeralds so that I could get those dark oak saplings back. Thankfully, it didn't take too long for me to be able to get all of the emeralds that I needed now that I had pretty well set up farms, and I was able to get both of them pretty quickly. After that, I finished up everything that I needed to gather resources, and I moved on to my little trip to go to the end. Thankfully, I'd already marked off where I needed to go, so it didn't take long for me to get here, and I got ready to go fight the Ender Dragon. And I want to say this, that I'm not the best at fighting, and it became very evident throughout the entire time of me, fighting the dragon. It took an obscene amount of time, I was there for multiple days, as you'll be able to see in the top of the corner. And I died 7 times. I kept track. How many times I died. One time I didn't even die because I was in the end. I had died, spawned back at my bed. There was a hole right there and I just walked off and fell to my death. It was pretty pitiful, I'm gonna be entirely honest. I've fought the dragon so many times, yet every time I seem to do absolutely horrendous at it. But, you know, thankfully in the end I was able to do it. And, you know, I won. And I wasn't that worried about taking the egg or anything after that. I really just wanted to fight the dragon so that, you know, we could beat Minecraft in this series and that I could go about doing anything else that I wanted to do that wasn't this. So then on day 56, I began my journey back home, which thankfully also didn't take too long. When I got back, I pretty much just started off with my usual stuff, and that usual stuff consisted of farming and finding and taming cats. And then after that, I went and grabbed the rest of the dark oak that I needed to finish off the roof of the jail. And thankfully this time I'd also gotten a significant amount more of saplings, so now I didn't really need to worry about not having enough. And here's what it looks like, pretty much completely finished, and it is ugly, trust me, I know. And then on day 57, I was farming, grinding out the usual. I then also killed my trader after I had gotten some melon seeds, because I had then realized that it had melon seeds, so I quickly took some from the extra emeralds that I had left over, and then went over on day 58 to add a little bit more detail to the jail. After that, I started just cleaning up the space a little bit because it was pretty ugly and I was not happy with the way it was looking. And then on day 59, I had gotten the idea that I wanted to build a new and prettier farm, which meant I had to clear out some buildings and some other stuff so that I could get started on it. And then on day 56, I pretty much just continued building with that. I actually ended up making a mistake on this, and I put this dark oak farm into one of the slime chunks, and I thought that if I was growing crops on it, no slimes would spawn, but I was very obviously wrong with that. I thought it was correct. I had put some string across the actual dark oak part, and so nothing would spawn there. I thought that I would still be fine, but no. And of course, I also ended up running out of dirt too, so I decided instead of having path blocks for my paths, I would instead use cobble, since I had an infinite amount of cobble. And I thought it would add a little bit more detail to it, so I pretty much just went around doing cobble and mossy cobble as a way to replace the dirt so that I could use the dirt in my farms instead. And then I went back to continuing on the farms on day 61. At this point, I'd still yet to realize that I had made a mistake in that, slimes could still spawn on my farms, but I did go back and fix it. On day 62 is finally when I realized that I actually did make a mistake and I needed to correct that mistake. later in on the day, that's when I started on building the new one in a non-slime chunk. On day 63, I felt bad for my horse for being out in the rain because it was constantly raining. I felt bad for him, so I decided that I would build him a stable. Not a very good stable, but it meant that he wouldn't be shacked up to a fence post and instead could have a little bit more space, and he would be covered from the rain. So I worked on that on day 63. Later in on the day, I also continued on with some more paths because I had already started, and well, I wanted more now. I thought, why not add some more, make some more space, make things look a little bit more coherent. So I worked on that for a little bit at the end of day 63 as well. Day 64 is when I started putting in all the cobble and mossy cobble. And then I decided to go to the Nether so that I could get some gravel to make coarse dirt out of. Honestly, I'm so glad that I chose to add the coarse dirt because it makes everything look so much nicer and kind of differentiates the path from the actual builds themselves. And of course, at this point, I was also determined to make things look prettier, so I decided to start removing some of the buildings because I hated them and I wanted to build things where they were. And here's what things are looking like so far at this point. And then on day 65, I thought, why not add a custom tree just for fun? So I worked on that, and I'm definitely going to add some more later on as well. But I want to make other things look a lot prettier as well before I just start adding a bunch of custom trees everywhere. So I did my best to make that look as pretty as I possibly could. And then I also decided that I should add some benches to add a little park vibe to everything. And I thought it would also take up some of the empty space that was just kind of around, since I didn't have builds for every single spot planned, but I still wanted to have a little bit in each kind of spot. And here is where I call the village trading house jail. And here's what it looks like with the tree included. And then I wanted to expand some of the villagers area as well. Not because I necessarily have any plans for the villagers, I just thought maybe I'll be a little bit more humane and give them some more room. So I then gave them some food so that they could breed and I could have some more villagers. And then, of course, on day 66, I went back to burning some of the ugly buildings. I have to say that I was really smart for thinking of this because I did not want to have to tear all of this down manually. I am so glad that I decided to use the flint and steel instead. And then I decided to fish. I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do at this point. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do more build or if I wanted to travel or what I wanted to do. So I decided I would fish instead as a way to give myself some time to think about what I wanted to do. And thankfully, I did come up with an idea. And that idea was to start terraforming. Now it's a flat world, so where are you going to get all of the materials for terraforming? Obviously, I'm going to use a lot of cobble, and that's pretty much it. So my terraforming idea, at least to start off with, is a mountain. That's why I needed so much cobble. So on day 67, I started out my grinding journey of getting cobble and placing cobble to start building a mountain. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this project completely done because I don't want to make the entirety of the next episode just me building this mountain. I want to do some other stuff as well, but I'm going to do my best to add this into it because I don't want to make the background of this entire thing just vast openness. I wanted to do something to kind of tie everything in a little bit. And I do have plans for what is going to be on top of the mountain, but I haven't quite decided on how I'm going to do it yet. And also, if you guys have any other suggestions for what I should do, feel free to comment them down below. So pretty much everything that I've been doing from day 66 onwards is pretty much just shuffling between grinding out cobblestone and placing it to make this huge giant mountain. And it is a really ugly mountain. Don't get me wrong, I know it's ugly, it's terrible. But I also haven't added in a whole lot of details yet. Like, as you're looking at it, it's just a ugly pile of cobble that goes up a little too high and also has no back because I've been using an iron pick at this point and a cobblestone generator. If I were to get all of the cobble I need for that, it would take forever. So I decided I would just leave the back open and we can just ignore it. It's a facade, a set, if you will. None of it is real. So I continued my shuffle between grinding out cobble and placing it all down on the mountain. Throughout this entire process, I actually ended up watching so many episodes of a show I really like, and it took so much longer than I thought it would. At this point on day 69, I actually ended up deciding that I could not handle continuously clicking to mine the cobble and just ended up turning on an auto clicker so that while that was going on, I could at least pay more attention to my show. Because the show was not in English, so trying to constantly watch where the cobble was and then looking over at my other monitor so I could read the subtitles was getting a little annoying. So I just turned on the auto clicker and let it run for a little while and then came back intermittently and placed cobble. Thankfully though, throughout the entire start of this build, I was actually having a lot of fun building it. I don't do many terraforming from the ground up, it's rather just reshaping things that already exist. So I was actually having a pretty fun time placing all of these blocks in really random orders, because it's just not something that I usually do, and it felt kind of nice to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And honestly, this part, though watching is pretty boring, like it was a lot of fun to actually work on. And I should say too, Throughout the entire recording of this, I recorded on 2 separate days. I died a total of 12 times in this episode. 12 times. And 7 of those were in the end, and 5 of those were just out and about. Sometimes I got killed by zombies, sometimes I was being killed by skeletons, sometimes I even fell to my death. Yeah. It quite frankly, was a lot of deaths, and if we compare this to my other series, my Let's Play series, where I've died once in 5 months, because that's how long the series has been going for, I think there's some difference there. I promise I'm really not actually that bad at this game. I'm a little bit bad at PvP, but everything else I'm not that bad at. On day 52, with only 3 days left, I once again continued off the process of mining cobble and then going back to place it on the mountain. I worked a little bit on figuring out the shape of the mountain so that I could put the build that is going on the inside look pretty nice, and thankfully it didn't take too long for me to actually figure out the total shape and could then move on to adding a little bit more details. I'm going to add some regular stone into it as well, so it's not entirely just cobble, but I'm just not at that point yet because I still need to go mining for so much cobble. But I'll get there. So I pretty much just started off by adding some leaves onto it so that it could look a little bit like the mountain was actually being taken over a bit more by nature instead of just a giant boulder. And it significantly looks so much better with all of the leaves on it. And then on day 74, I wanted to do a little bit more farming and then gave that all to my villagers so that they could breed some more. And then I traded so I could get some more emeralds. And then just kind of admired all of the stuff that we had done in this episode. Just kind of looked at it, saw what we had done, saw the changes that had been made, and just kind of looked at all of it. And so, that is where we're going to end it. Thank you guys for watching, and catch the next episode in about 2 weeks for the last final episode, days 75 to day 100. Thanks for watching! Hello everyone, and welcome back to my 100 Days in a Flat World series. This is the final episode, days 75 to 100. And on day 75, I pretty much just started off with working on my mountain, working on adding the buildings onto the top of it, and just seeing what we could do there. Day 76, I pretty much just continued working on it, not anything too crazy. Taking some views from afar, seeing what I could do. A lot of it was not planned out actually. I was just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do as I went. This continued on to day 77 as well. Of course, I also needed to get some more materials for it, so I spent some time at my cobblestone generator where I would then smelt it and then use that to add some textures into the mountain as well so that it didn't look so flat. I continued doing that into day 78 as well. I was really liking the way that it looked, so I just continued that. A little bit of a faraway view. Day 79, I started on some custom trees, and this is a style that I actually hadn't done before. And I really liked it, so I ended up going a little crazy with it. But I just worked on those for pretty much all of day 79, just kind of on and off, putting trees in different spots. And then day 80, I decided it looked really plain and boring and added some grass before going back to adding some more custom trees. Day 81, of course, I needed more trees, but I spread some out into places that weren't just where the little mountain was, which I did also into day 81 as well. I also took down some of the buildings that were in my way, and on day 82, just kind of cleaned things up a little bit that needed to be done, but I hadn't really got to them yet, so I worked on that for a little bit. And then on day 83, I wasn't actually really sure what I wanted to do, so I just pretty much spent the entire day fishing, so I could try and like come up with an idea on what exactly I wanted to do. So I just fished and fished the entire day. And then on day 84, I decided I was going to go on a little journey. I didn't really have anything in mind of what I wanted to get. I was pretty much just going for the fun of it, to see what was out there, see if I could find any more armor or tools like that. But this went on for a few days, just pretty much repeating itself, looking, finding. I'm on day 85 right now, just seeing what's out there. I even did die once. I fell off of the top of this stronghold and died. Thankfully, my spawn was at one of the villages, so it didn't take too long to get back. Day 86 is just continuing off, trying to see what's out there, see what we can find, any good resources. And day 87, I finally went back to my village and decided that it was time to get back to working. But of course, I needed a little fishing break. So I did a bit of fishing as well on day 87. And then on day 88 is when we really got back into it. So I started off with some cats. I bred some up, got 2 new little kittens, and then I started working on the mountain again. I wanted to add a little bit more shape and detail to it, so I went and got more cobblestone from the little generator, and then added some more mountain to the mountain. Of course, though, I did end up running out pretty quickly, so I went back and hung out at the cobblestone generator for a little bit to try and get some more. Day 89, I was also still at the cobblestone generator, just mining away, trying to get as much as I possibly could. Before I went back to adding more cobble onto the mountains, I do end up adding more just like stone to it as well, like I did with the rest of the mountain. On day 90, I'm still working on the mountain, a little bit of a faraway view, and then I start working on the other side of the mountain. I'm just trying to make it look a little bit nicer, spread it out a little bit, and give it less of a harsh ending to it. So I'm just kind of working on that for a little bit. Day 91 was once again continuing off with the side of the mountain, and then getting more cobble like usual. And then day 92, I back to adding more stuff onto the mountain. I was really just trying to make it look a little bit more natural and less ugly, I guess. I don't know. Day 92 is when I finally added some more stone onto it, so it didn't look so cobble-y. I did everything just kind of in groups in random spots, because the amount of stone that I did have was pretty limited, but I wanted it to look nice. Day 93, I went and gathered some more leaves so that I could add some more like bush shrubbery type stuff on the mountain like I had done in the first little section. Was just doing that on the new sections. I worked pretty much in every spot that needed a bit of greenery, which was mainly the new areas, but you know. And then I also added some custom trees on top of the mountain as well, because it just looked a little off with no depth to it, because obviously the mountain is just a wall, it's not a real mountain. So I felt like it needed something on top of it, and the custom trees, because they're super thin, they seemed like they would work pretty well, and I was actually liking the way that they looked. So I continued those, and I tried to make it look a little bit more of like a natural incline to the trees on top. So I added one or two at the bottom base little area there, and then continued off adding some more higher up into the more center area of the mountain. Day 94, I'm just continuing off with some more custom trees. This side, this one being on the other side of the mountain. And then after that, I wanted to add a little bit of dirt on to the stony areas, just to help add a little bit more color into it, because it was really gray and green, and I felt like it needed just a bit of brown on it. So just went around adding some dirt on top of some stone areas, mainly focusing near the base of the mountain, but I did add some higher up as well. And then I went back to farming. I needed some bone meal, so most of this just went into the composter and was turned into bone meal, though some was kept for food as well. And I used the bone meal to just add some more grass near the base of the mountain so that it looked like it flowed a little bit more naturally and just looked like it had a little bit more detail. And some of the grass, I just used the shears to pick up some of the like tall grass and whatnot, so that I could be able to place it on onto the dirt that is spread out throughout the mountain, the ones that wouldn't get turned into grass blocks, just help make them look a little bit nicer. Day 95, I tore down some of the trees that were right beside the mountain, because they were looking ugly and obstructing my view of all the work that I had been doing. And and then I took some of the extra cobble I had and used that as like a boulder kind of thing to just kind of add a little bit more texture to the ground. I also used some water to add some melons to the ground as well. Melons, pumpkins, I actually can't remember which one they were. It was one of them. I didn't really have a reason for this, I just thought it might look cool. So I went around and I did that in a few locations. And then I also put some vines around, just because I thought it might break up some of the stone areas that I didn't have a lot of greenery or dirt in. Day 96, I did a little bit of fishing, so I could try and figure out what I wanted to do for the last few days of the whole series, I guess. And I didn't really think of anything, so I pretty much just spent some time fishing, just for fun. To think, and that's about it. At this point, I was honestly kind of having a hard time trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was really just waiting for the series to be over. So I was really just enjoying the peaceful fishing type of all of this. But day 97, I did get back to the grind, and I tore down some of the buildings that I had started burning down and never finished tearing down. So I worked on getting rid of those just because I wanted to make the area look a little bit more nicer before I ended the series. So I tore all of those down, and then I decided that the mountain would look really good with a waterfall. So I figured out where I would place the waterfall, and then I went up to the mountain so that I could go place some water, make a little waterfall. I just kind of picked a random spot, went down, looked, saw how it looked, decided I liked it, and then continued on. Day 98, I did a little bit of farming, just to try and get a little bit of extra stuff, a little bit of extra food, so that I could breed my sheep as well as breed my cows for one final time in the series. And I actually pretty much didn't end up using any sheep in the entire series, and I barely ended up using any of my cows. So it was kind of pointless, but you know, I had them. They were there. And then I did a little bit more fishing, just kind of to break everything up a little bit so I wasn't spending the whole time mindlessly farming or whatever. And then on day 99, I continued off with a little bit more tidying up of the areas. So I got rid of this terrible mess of oak trees that I had beside my house and my storage house. Just got rid of all that, cleaned it all up. And while I was cleaning all that up, I actually found a wandering trader who had moss blocks. So I bought some and then used some of the moss down below the mountain. And then I also took some of the like little mini tree shrub things and used them for some more trees, both at the base and the top of the mountain, just because I thought it might look a little bit nicer as kind of like a difference in trees so that they all didn't look like the same type of tree. So I went around and did that. A little faraway look, a little faraway view. Everything was looking really good and I was pretty happy with it. And then finally we hit day 100, which is the final day. So I decided just to take a little look around my area, see what all I had done, which it doesn't really look like a lot, but it really felt like a lot in the process. So I pretty much just went around, looked at everything, saw my villagers, which I also barely ended up using. But yeah, so that was pretty much the entire series, which was kind of crazy. I think it's like actually my first series that I've completely finished entirely without like giving up partway through or just deciding that I didn't feel like doing it partway through. So I'm glad that I finished it, and I'm really happy with the way that it looks. Surprisingly, everything actually looks pretty nice, even though I didn't end up finishing everything. Partly because I did forget about a few things, but you know, it is what it is. And yeah, so this is what I managed to do in the 100 Days in a Flat World series. If you guys want to see more 100 Days in a Blank World or whatever, just let me know. I'm totally down to do some more in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next video next week, hopefully. Bye!